In other news, Coach Avalla recently did an interview with the Minds of Media podcast. Not to be confused with the Scrapyard Media podcast. That's what you're listening to right now.
Here at the Scrapyard.
Yeah, we're not big enough to have guests.
And
but one day. Sorry.
And she gave some insight into the problems with coaching staff and their allowance of women.
Yeah.
Staff.
So I'll get some context. So she did this interview, Minds of Media podcast. Cool interview. She's cool. I've talked to her before. It's a good interview. She's very forthright. And
Xavier's allowed to have guests. We, on the other hand, are not allowed to have guests.
Right, I talked to her. Oh yeah, a guest on my phone for a story. Like, chill. But yeah, I talked to her. She's very forthright, and she talked about how, when looking for jobs, a team told her that the players didn't want female coaches. And, another time, talking to another team, they mentioned some reluctance to hire her because of the extra costs of hiring a woman and how that might affect, traveling and stuff like that, of having to travel with a woman on the team. And just to say, those additional expenses, like, I've traveled for school, we've had women, those expenses are completely marginal. It's like, an extra hotel room. But I think you could probably get away with having her share a hotel room if it's somebody that she's super cool with, like maybe a really good friend or something that's also on the team. Because, for students it's different. If you have one girl, she needs her own hotel room. But I would imagine your professional environment could probably have somebody that she trusts, But yeah, those are basically the extra costs, having to pay for an extra hotel room. And I can't imagine any other extra costs that you're going to have to pay for.
Yeah.
It's completely stupid. However, extra costs and players not wanting female coaches. And so this kind of opens up the conversation of just female coaches in sports in general and some of the perceptions that are about them. And obviously you, Tayler, are literally a female coach. So I'd imagine you have some experiences, just being a female coach in sporting events in general, and just some of the perceptions that come with that.
First, going through some of her Coach Avalla's statements, the fact that she brings up like players being like, I don't want female coaches, is like obviously something that's going to happen, because it's the dispute of gaming in general is like, it's a girl. She doesn't play video games. How could she coach us? How could she be better than us? And it's like that mentality. But the thing that really hits me is the fact that she said some people didn't want to pick her up because of traveling, additional expenses, and then thinking of like, well, what these additional expenses would be. They were like room and stuff. And then it's like, this is the same reasons why people were like, oh, that's why we don't have Gaguri on a team. We don't want to pay for these additional expenses of having a girl on the team. And it's like, okay. And those additional expenses will having to board an extra room. And it's like, well, if she gets close with people and she takes it professionally, again, how is that a problem? But me, as the residential female coach, I don't think what I do, because it's already a feminine...
I was going to say, yeah, it is a female-dominated...
It's a female-dominated activity. I don't think that having a female coach is what causes the problem. I think it's fighting the bigotry of trying to get men on teams that aren't like... Because it's so female-dominated. But I can see the struggle with going to other events and knowing other coaches that are women in a predominantly male-dominated, male-coached event like basketball, or even a female coach at school where she's the female coach of something, but then the male coach of the basketball team is like running her out of the gym and stuff, where it's like she goes, a female coach goes and complains, and it's like, hey, this is the time we have. And it's like, well, why are you complaining? You still got gym time, or you still got field time. Why are you coming at us like that? And I just think that there's still a whole bunch of just bigotry towards, like, women trying to hold their own and, like, actually put forth the effort with the team. And from what I know, the coach in the interview, she is very passionate about Overwatch. She's a very solid coach, and from what I've been told, and it's like, she knows her shit. And even if she didn't know the game like that, if she knows anything about, like, any kind of cooperative event, then there's no reason why you shouldn't trust her with your players. And going back to her being like, players didn't want me, a female coach on their team, I don't know how true that is, because that's kind of like something people say where it's like, oh, you know, we spoke to the group and they didn't want you. And it's like, so you spoke to all your underlings? Like, you're the coach. Why are they calling the shots for the management?
Well, there's a thing where it's like, I know in the NBA, and again, the NBA is my reference for life. In the NBA, there have been moments where, one, we haven't ever had a female head coach. It might happen soon. In the Spurs system, there's a coach, Becky Hammon, and she's been working under Popovich, who is the greatest basketball coach ever. Yes, better than Phil Jackson. However, there is a perception, and this has been documented, where there will be a female assistant coach, and the players immediately don't respect her. They view her completely differently. And then there is this point where they start off by default not messing with you. They start off by default not being cool with you. And then you have to work extra hard to gain these players' respect. But, you know, obviously once they respect you, they just think of you as a coach. But there is always that baseline assumption of, she is a female coach. What does she know about basketball?
Well, I mean, it's the thing. She's a female coach, not she's a coach.
Yeah, and there's a distinction that's always there.
And I feel that. I relate to that with disrespect. But it's like, in certain, like, it's like, if the coach for where I worked, for the basketball team where I work, if his wife came in, you can tell that there's a totally different attitude with the boys basketball team than there is from the girls basketball team. He's the coach of both, and she's the assistant coach of both. And she comes in, she is, like, making sure that they're, like, on their, like, business. They're on their shit, yeah. Yeah, they're on their shit. And yet, you can still see when, like, she's with the girls team, there's a much more respect than when she's with the boys team, because it's just like, oh, she's a female coach. Like,
yes, because there's that default presumption of, what do you know about this?
Exactly.
And there's the broader issue of just women in positions of authority at all. And, you know, the fact that a woman is in a position of authority and your first thought is, come on, really? Like what do you know about this position?
That is such a, when you said that, come on, really? That is such a Bay Area, like, vibe that you gave off that I can't even.
It is one of those, you know, it is a thing. And then obviously talking to the players, if you hire a coach that the players don't like, that's just going to ruin your team.
That's a dumbass idea.
Yes, and the management, at its core, cares more about the players than the coaches. That's why coaches are fired so easily, but players will stick on even if they're a problem. So I understand, you know, players being like, oh, I don't want a female coach, and then the management being like, all right, whatever. But I think it's also on the management to be like, talk to your players and say, yo, like, no. Like, I don't care if you feel weird about a female coach. She's good for this job, and we're going to hire her, and you're just going to have to suck it up. We're paying you over, you know, $50K a year to play Overwatch. Like, you need to suck it up and deal with her.
And if it comes down to it, and that team, the team that she's talking about, if that team ends up losing out on an excellent coach and her going somewhere else,
then that gets a manager fired. That gets a GM fired by an owner for messing that up.
Yep.
But I would also say,
can I play devil's advocate for a moment?
Yes.
Because
I don't know, Nathan.
This isn't going to be that bad, but it's going to be pretty bad. So, like, I was going to bring this up earlier, but you mentioned the whole, like, hotel room thing. Mm-hmm. I get both perspectives on it, because I do understand, as we know, I like to make random economical comments. Like, on one hand, yes, you can, like, have someone you're comfortable with and share a hotel room, professionalism, whatever, right? But, like, you don't just suddenly pop in the team, like, hey, person I've never met before, let's share a room. Like, that is...
Yeah, no, I completely understand. A season or two in, you're going to have to...
Yeah, like, I mean, eventually I can understand, and it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
But also, just that upfront cost of, well, we could pay, like, $200, which is a low ball, or we can pay $400, or, like, $300. You're going to take the option where you have to pay $100 less, because hotel rooms aren't cheap.
Yeah. No, that's a completely... I understand a team saying that. I just think...
I just also think it's dumb.
Yeah, like,
fuck.
I just also think you're an asshole for saying that. You know, like, there's levels to it. There's some things that are fiscally responsible that still make you a dick.
There's this thing where it's like, so... But there's this thing where it's like, let's take Seoul Dynasty. Seoul Dynasty has that had that full roster, 12 players and then coaching staff, right? So, yeah, hotel room, you can fit, maybe 2 players per room?
You'd fit 4.
You could fit 4 if they're sharing a bed.
Yeah, if you're a broke community college trying to pinch your budget.
Yeah.
Well, in this scenario, it's a penny pitching motherfucker.
They're going
so.
No.
2 per room. Probably.
I'm saying 2 per room because it's Seoul Dynasty and it's... Just think of it that way. 2 per room. Because that's how most of the homes were set up while they were living in LA.
Sure.
2 per room. If you were lucky, you were the single one out. But 2 per room, you get, out of the 6, now you have 6 rooms for just the players. And then the coaching staff. And head coach, assistant coach share the same room. Media people share another room, right? They're probably more of the penny pinchers. They're probably 4 people per room. But the players are probably, 2 per room. And if the problem is, and they're saying, well, the additional expenses of bringing on a woman as the assistant coach is always just the term additional costs, because being as the woman, it just rubs me the wrong way because
it's a shitty argument.
Yeah,
we're treating it like it's a serious thought, but it's not.
No, because it's the fact that it's like, oh, we'll have to pay for additional costs. It's 1 more mouth to feed, 1 more bed to put somebody in, and it's like, okay, and there's plenty of hotels where you can have 2 locking doors. Like, it doesn't have to be just a twin room. You can have a better space.
Like, no, it's a shitty...
It's a shitty argument.
It's not a true... It's not a real... Like, I guarantee...
It's not a fucking real reason. And
it's not a reason.
Because there is no real reason.
Yes. And also...
And it's them just trying to, sugarcoat it as in, oh, well, you don't fit the budget. And, that's fucked up. Just say straight up, we're not hiring you like the first team did because our players don't want a woman coach.
Yeah.
And I would rather be told, hey, the players don't want a woman coach, and then go and be like, man, that was fucked up, but at least they were honest, and I would rather not be on that team than to have somebody tell me, oh, well, we don't think you would fit because of the additional costs. Because that comes off, shady.
And there is something to, I feel like, to bow tie this conversation. To all the nuggets out there that are sitting here, 1, automatically assuming it's a Korean team, but 2, no, alright, so, when this story first broke, a lot of the comments were talking about how, you guys understand how conservative Korean culture is, the players, if they're Korean players, wouldn't react well to a female coach. 1, I'm sure Korean culture is conservative, let's, I'm not saying it's not. However, it's completely stupid to act like this doesn't happen here.
Yeah.
In the United States, in Europe, in Western countries, it's completely absurd to act like this is obviously a Korean team and obviously an issue because the league is so filled with Koreans. It's has anybody ever looked at American business? Has anybody ever looked at female coaches in male-dominated sports and how hard they have to work to get accepted within those fields? It takes a long time, and even now, there are still people that are if she, if somebody hires Becky Hammon as a coach, how many other issues will there be? Like, the players will try to have sex with her, like, why should we even put that risk? And there's all these weird excuses that people make for not hiring a woman coach. And it's like, this isn't a Korean thing. This is just most society's thing. And I think it's super lame to pit this on Korean culture.
Yeah.
As a way to somehow distance this from more Western cultures.
What the real problem is.
Yeah, because it's something that all American companies do.
Yeah, and again, like you said, if I were a coach and, the people were like, oh, because of additional costs, like, immediately it comes off like, you just think that I'm going to try and sleep with all the players, or, oh, you think I'm just going to try and, like, bribe over, like, or it's always just like, a woman only got into this affirmative role because she did something that's sin.
Yeah, it's a bunch of weird Jordan Peterson fans.
Yeah.
But no, like, it's that kind of mindset of, why are you in this space? What are you going for? Do you have any expertise? And that's a genuine thing that, a woman's expertise is completely, they have to prove it more than a dude. Like, quite frankly, I could go somewhere and just start talking random bullshit.
Yep.
But if I sound authoritative enough, it'll work out. As a
person who works in a place, I can 100% confirm that if a dude or woman even walks into the place of my employee and asks a question, I can give the same bullshit that one of my female coworkers will give, and they will trust me 99% more of the time.
Yeah, you just walk in somewhere with a little bit of authority, and people will agree with you. But a woman does the same thing, and suddenly it's like...
Why are they so catty?
Yeah, and suddenly it's like, well, what's the square root of 236 divided by pi? Answer that, and maybe I'll trust you.
Yeah.
Like, it's a thing. So yeah, it's a super bad situation. However, like, this ain't all bad. Like, apparently she has a job at the Paris Eternal, so
it wasn't Paris,
and it wasn't Washington. So we've deduced two teams.
Two teams.
We will continue the Scrapyard investigation and get back to you. But she's got her job.
We never did find Fleta.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't fuck that one up.